Enough is enough, bruh. What is going on?
Sophie removed from the league.
Sophie Cunningham removed from the WNBA.
For Sophie Cunningham, hard fouls JC Sheldon. She gets ejected.
Sophie Cunningham steps up, grabs her, knocks her down, gets a flagrant 2 for this. They end up calling.
Yeah, slam her to the floor. Slam her through the floor. Y'all wanna play dirty? Sophie gonna hold it down.
Sophie Cunningham gives a take foul, a very hard one. She straight up tackled JC Sheldon.
The moment Sophie Cunningham stepped in to protect Caitlin Clark, the basketball world split in half. One side saw a hero, the other, a villain.
Yeah, there is now a petition to remove Sophie Cunningham from the WNBA. It has 114 signatures.
Somebody said sign the petition and remove Sophie Cunningham from the league. So this is a petition to get Sophie Cunningham removed from the WNBA. Where she displayed tonight was disgusting.
Now she's not just being fined, she's being sued. All because she stood up against the bullying no one else dared to challenge. Caitlin had been poked, shoved, blindsided, and humiliated on national TV.
Clear as cut. All day ejection. She's going nowhere near the ball. She's nowhere near the ball. She just grabbed her in the eye. She just eye gouged her. She just clawed her.
Sophie tries to wrap her up, and Sheldon gets to the floor, and all hell breaks loose.
The refs ignored it. The league stayed quiet. But Sophie, she acted. And while others backed down, she made the statement everyone was too scared to make. You touch Caitlin Clark, you answer to me. Now the backlash is mounting, but so is the support.
Sophie Cunningham stood on business. So all these damn petitions and all these little stupid things they're trying to do, these little freaking fines, we don't care about none of that. What? Bing! Poked her right in the eye. Rita Marbury completely shoves Caitlin to the ground.
JC Sheldon scratched her in the eye. Like she literally, you can see it here. She's just clawed her.
What is going on? WNBA, y'all need to get this under control. This is ridiculous.
Sophie Cunningham just responded, and she's not backing down. The game had already spiraled out of control. Caitlin Clark had taken repeated hits. First, JC Sheldon swiped her directly in the eye, an obvious and dangerous foul that somehow didn't lead to an ejection.
JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin Clark. She swipes her in the eyeball.
6 technical fouls issued. There were 3 ejections and there were 2 flagrant fouls. For one game, that is bananas.
Clark, in pain, tried to shake it off, but it didn't stop there. Marina Mabry came charging in next, blindsiding Caitlin and slamming her to the hardwood with force that looked more like a football play than anything out of a basketball game.
Yeah, there is now a petition to remove Sophie Cunningham from the WNBA. It has 114 signatures.
Shockingly, both players were allowed to stay in. No ejection, no real consequence. And the worst part, the league reviewed the footage after the fact and quietly upgraded Mabry's foul to a flagrant 2.
This is, of course, Sophie and Sheldon going down the floor. Sophie tries to wrap her up, and Sheldon gets to the floor, and all hell breaks loose. And Sophie said, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. We'll go. We'll go. So there's that.
Caitlin Clark nudges her off because JC stays in her face. And then Tina Charles runs over and is kind of wagging her finger in Caitlin Clark's face. And then Marina Mabry comes out of nowhere.
But still didn't suspend her, didn't fine her, didn't even acknowledge the dangerous precedent. Meanwhile, the hits just kept coming. Caitlin was being targeted over and over again, and nobody was stepping up to stop it. Not the refs, not the league, not even her own teammates, until Sophie Cunningham said enough.
What Sophie Cunningham did, she stood on business, bro, about her dear friend Caitlin Clark, bro. And that was honorable what she did, bro. What she had done for Caitlin, bro.
Late in the game, after Sheldon had already been in Clark's face all night, it happened. Sophie had seen enough of the cheap shots and no calls. So when Sheldon made another aggressive move, Sophie wrapped her up and put her on the floor. A flagrant? Sure. A foul? No question.
JC gets ejected. Does Lindsay? I think Lindsay gets ejected. And, in watching the broadcast, even the broadcasters at the time mentioned if they would have just ejected Marina Mabry, this probably wouldn't have happened.
One of her teammates, finally shows up and defends Caitlin Clark, finally sends a message, and just this quick, these bozos want them out of the league? Do you want a list of players I could give you that you ought to kick out of the league, starting with Dejanay Carrington on your team?
But to fans and analysts watching closely, it wasn't dirty. It was defensive. A message to the entire league that the bullying stops here. But that one moment sparked absolute chaos. As Sheldon hit the ground, the benches stirred, players squared up, and officials rushed in. Sophie was immediately ejected, handed a flagrant 2, and later.
And the craziest thing is, they did not even eject Marina Mabry from the game. If that doesn't get you ejected, what has to happen for you to get ejected? Do you have to murder somebody on the floor? Like, what is going on with the WNBA?
2 fines. And then came the headline nobody expected. Sophie Cunningham sued for her role in defending her teammate. The outrage exploded online. Petitions were launched to have her banned from the league.
Yeah, there is now a petition to remove Sophie Cunningham from the WNBA. It has 114 signatures.
Somebody said sign the petition and remove Sophie Cunningham from the league. So this is a petition to get Sophie Cunningham removed from the WNBA, where she displayed tonight was disgusting.
Social media flooded with accusations. But the fans who saw the truth knew what really happened. Caitlin Clark had been abandoned by everyone in authority. Sophie Cunningham was the only one who chose to stand tall and protect her. And now, somehow, she's the one paying the price.
I feel like Sophie Cunningham was the only one who would have done something back if she was on the floor. Sophie Cunningham got her. Sophie Cunningham got her. And I mean this when I say this. This would have been a flagrant 2, except for the fact that they allowed Marina Mabry did what she did. This possibly should be a flagrant 2. She got her around the neck. And then JC Sheldon gets up. And then Sophie immediately goes at JC Sheldon, grabs her.
While Sophie Cunningham was being dragged through the mud, villainized by headlines and hit with fines and a lawsuit, the real aggressors, JC Sheldon and Marina Mabry, walked away untouched by the same level of scrutiny.
These players wasn't even ejected. Marina Mabry basically just did what Kennedy Carter did on a whole nother level. I mean, this right here is crazy, dog. This is crazy. I just cannot believe this is still freaking happening, bro.
That's where the outrage really began to boil. Let's rewind. JC Sheldon didn't just play hard defense. She poked Caitlin Clark in the eye. Not a bump, not incidental contact, a full open-handed swipe that left Clark stumbling.
She was literally poked in the eye, then pushed to the ground. Watch this. Look, Caitlin pushed her, get off me. And look at Marina Mabry. I mean, I just cannot believe this. All fans are pissed off.
Caitlin Clark says, "Get your hands off me." And then here comes
clutching her face. The cameras caught it. The refs saw it. And yet Sheldon stayed in the game. No ejection. No flagrant 2. Not even a basic acknowledgement of how dangerous that contact was.
Going after a superstar and trying to rough them up a little bit to get in their head is a part of sports. When it crosses the line, the referees need to do their jobs. They need to do their jobs, blow the whistle, and officiate properly. Hand out flagrants, kick people out of games, nip it in the bud.
Then moments later, as if the league had completely lost control, Marina Mabry came flying in from the blind side. Clark, already vulnerable and shaken, was body checked to the floor with zero intention of playing the ball.
JC Sheldon of the Sun poking her in the eye. And then a bigger problem might be the fact that Marina Mabry of the Sun comes up and just shoves Caitlin Clark, look at that, straight to the ground from behind. And again, that shades of Kennedy Carter.
Again, no ejection, no accountability, just a quiet upgrade from the league after the game.
The WNBA is a freaking joke.
Enough is enough, bruh. What is going on?
Without even issuing a public statement. And while Mabry's name faded into the background, Sophie's exploded across headlines. The double standard was impossible to ignore. Cunningham acted only after Clark had taken multiple dangerous hits.
Sophie Cunningham steps up, grabs her, knocks her down, gets a flagrant 2 for this, they end up calling. Sophie takes a step back, gathers herself. JC Sheldon kind of gets up, and another teammate, I don't recall the young lady's name, tried to get in Sophie's face. Sophie fights him back. They're running each other, and they start choking each other. And, you know, Cunningham's kind of in control, it seemingly, because Sheldon's head is getting, like, pushed down.
Her foul wasn't random. It was direct. A message. A line drawn in the sand. And suddenly, she became the villain, sued, fined, threatened with removal from the league. Meanwhile, the players who ignited the chaos, they're still on the court like nothing happened.
Connecticut Sun mad because now, remember leading up to this game, right? I told y'all, they posted on their social media, now you know. So they basically took their slogan, reversed the slogan back onto them.
This is exactly why fans and even some analysts started calling out the league's selective outrage. Cunningham didn't attack, she responded. And her response was calculated. She didn't throw punches. She didn't start a brawl. She wrapped Sheldon up to prevent another blindside on Clark. That's not thuggery, that's protection.
Look at Sophie, she's waiting for it. She's waiting for it, fam. And then I see why Allen got kicked out. Allen went for the throat. Allen went for Sophie's throat. Literally have her hand on her neck right there. Oh my goodness. But she's focused on Sheldon. So she reaches for Sheldon, grabs the back of her head. Is Sophie handling both of them? Oh my goodness. It looked like Sophie might have one hand on Allen, the other hand holding on to Sheldon's hair or the back of her head. Oh my goodness.
But what made this uglier was the way it spiraled after the game. A petition surfaced online calling for Sophie to be banned from the WNBA entirely. Hundreds of signatures poured in. Social media turned toxic. Some fan pages even threatened to boycott the All-Star game, unless Sophie was punished even further.
There is now a petition to remove Sophie Cunningham from the WNBA. It has 114 signatures.
And yet, no one was talking about the eye gouge. No one was talking about the body slam. The entire conversation was being twisted around one woman who dared to stand up when no one else would.
Finally, we have somebody. There is some type of proof with this team that says, all right.
Through it all, Sophie remained composed. She didn't make excuses. She didn't backpedal. She stood firm and owned her decision. She stood on business. And whether you agreed with it or not, one thing was undeniable. She was the only one who had Caitlin Clark's back when it mattered most.
Because they're going to have to deal out, fines. There may be suspensions that come from this game, which kind of sucks if Sophie ends up suspended because they need her right now.
Now, as the media frenzy spins out of control and lawsuits start flying, fans are asking the real question. Why is the enforcer being punished harder than the instigators? The second Sophie Cunningham stepped in and wrapped up JC Sheldon, the tone of the entire season shifted. This wasn't a random foul, it was a calculated stand. Sophie had seen enough. Caitlin Clark had been poked in the eye, slammed to the floor, and repeatedly targeted while the refs stayed silent.
Marina Mabrey body checking Caitlin Clark to the ground. JC Sheldon all over her, riding her. Pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye.
So Sophie acted, not with chaos, but with control. Even as players rushed her, even when a lawsuit followed and fines piled up, Sophie didn't flinch. She stood her ground, not for herself, but for Caitlin. And while critics tried to paint her as the villain, fans saw the truth.
When they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game, it's been happening all season long.
They rallied, flipped the narrative, and turned Sophie into a symbol of protection and loyalty. She didn't just defend her teammate. She exposed a system failing to do its job.
Sophie Cunningham had enough. Oh yeah. Sophie Cunningham had enough. Folks, shout out to Sophie Cunningham. We wanted somebody like this that said, I'm tired of this. I'm trying to step up. It's time to step up. We're not going to get punked anymore. We're not going to get pushed around anymore. We're not going to get treated like a little sister anymore, like a little brother anymore. We are going to start being the one that say, you know what? We're not going to start the fight.
And now, the league knows. You go after Caitlin Clark. You're answering to Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham didn't ask for the spotlight, but when no one else stepped up, she became the spotlight.
Sophie Cunningham. J.C. Sheldon going up for a layup, puts her head down like a running back, exploding through the hole. Sophie Cunningham wraps her up, tosses her little ass to the ground, says, "What's good?" And then Lindsay Allen goes after her along with J.C. Sheldon and Sophie Cunningham. Look at Sophie Cunningham taking it 2-on-1. Sophie Cunningham going 2-on-1 underneath the basket. Sophie Cunningham, salute.
J.C. Sheldon, my goodness, dog. My goodness. Now, honestly, I felt like Sophie might have wanted a piece of J.C. after the Caitlin Clark and J.C. kind of scuffle going on, right? Then this happened, okay? The fast break, you see Sheldon taking it after getting a steal. Sophie wraps her arms around her. Now, this is normal, okay?
While the league turned a blind eye and the refs swallowed their whistles, she made a bold choice. Protect her teammate, no matter the cost. Now she's being fined, sued, and vilified. Not for starting chaos, but for refusing to let it continue.
Sophie Cunningham stood on business. So all these damn petitions and all these little stupid things they're trying to do, these little freaking fines, we don't care about none of that. What? Bing! Poked her right in the eye. Marina Mayberry completely shoves Caitlin to the ground.
J.C. Sheldon scratched her in the eye. Like, she literally, you can see it here. She's just clawed her.
What is going on? WNBA, y'all need to get this under control. This is ridiculous.
This isn't just about a foul. It's about a culture that punishes those who defend and protects those who provoke.
These players wasn't even ejected. Marina Mayberry basically just did what Kennedy Carter did on a whole nother level. I mean, this right here is crazy, dog. This is crazy. I just cannot believe this is still freaking happening, bro.
But Sophie's response lit a fire the league can't ignore. She made one thing crystal clear. Caitlin Clark will not stand alone anymore. Let the headlines twist it. Let the lawsuits come. Sophie Cunningham already won where it matters most. On the court, in the hearts of fans, and in the legacy of standing on business.
There wasn't an explanation for the tech that she got. You know, I think it was pretty obvious that stuff was brewing, right? When the officials don't get control of the ball game, when they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game, it's been happening all season long. This is what happens, right? This is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, right? And when you allow them to play physical and you allow these things to happen, they're going to compete and they're going to have their teammates' backs. It's exactly what you expect, right? Out of fierce competition.